Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator for the PC. In this flight, we're going to be following the majority of the Midland Main Line, passenger rail line in the UK. And the way that I've done this is that I've gone into Wikipedia and gathered together about 35 or 40 latitude and longitude coordinates and just stuffed them in here ruthlessly. Took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to do it. But what we have here with this jagged line is roughly the route of, well, it's the extent of the Midland Main Line from Leeds to Bedfordshire, which is not the entirety of the line. It's about 3/4 of the line. I'm stopping in Bedfordshire for personal reasons. But as soon as the simulator comes out with helicopters, then I'm going to take a helicopter from this Cranfield down to St. Pancras station in London, which is where the line ends. But we'll wait for the simulator to release the helis before we do that. We're doing this in the 172 with the Garmin 1000 avionics package. And it's a cloudy day outside in northern England, or the Midlands, Yorkshire, England. I'm also going to be testing out the autopilot in the 172 Skyhawk in a way that I've only done once or twice so far. I'm going to see how well it holds onto these GPS coordinates. I did a test flight, a trial flight of this run at night. I did it about 4 or 5 hours ago, and the autopilot performed extraordinarily well. So I'm hoping to replicate that in the morning this time instead of in the middle of the night. So we'll just see how this goes. Oh. Well, I purchased the Leeds-Bradford airport scenery add-on package from Orbix just to make this flight, and wouldn't you know it, it's oh man, that's all right. I'll be back. I'm sure. I mean, this is an area of England that is well known, or at least reasonably well known to a lot of Americans, because we read in high school. We read. It's practically standard required reading literature that is set up here in this part of England. So it's not an area that is unknown to me. And I will be back, but that is really disappointing. Well, okay, no, you can see it. You can see it there. Okay. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it over here. The scenery package from Orbix. So let's see here. Actually, there are a couple of errands we have to run first. We have to do that. And I just like to make sure that everything is right on what it's supposed to be before doing any of this. Now, curiously, it's not having us interact with air traffic control, which is fine. I don't particularly want to. for this flight. For reasons that I've explained, I only interact with air traffic control. In case you didn't watch the video where I explained that, I only interact with air traffic control in the United States and in Anglophone Canada. To do so anywhere else, in my opinion, breaks the immersion of the sim. And so until they come out with a greater variety of accents for pilots, for air traffic controllers and things, I will be keeping the air traffic control as quiet as possible in other areas of the world. Alright, so what we are going to do here is we are going to, as soon as we reach V1, we are going to turn south, because apparently they don't like general aviation on the northern end of this field. General aviation is supposed to restrict itself to the southern end of this field. Oh, my fault. So we're going to make a rather serious left-hand turn here. Away from the field. And once we are roughly parallel with the magenta line on the right hand of the right hand screen of the Garmin, maybe a little bit plane a little bit towards it here to give the autopilot some clue of what I want it to do. There we go. So now we will go autopilot on. And nav hold. And it should...
Cessna 2 Juliet Bravo, continue for south departure. I will contact you next when you leave my airspace.
Get out of here, you immersion braking. Let me see here.
Leeds Tower Cessna November 82 Juliet Bravo, continue for south departure.
Now that sounds a bit like my voice. My voice is a little bit deeper than that. But as far as the controller is concerned, he would not sound like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for him to say about one more thing to me, and then I'm going to shut him off. Because he would not be American, would he? Slow the plane down just a little bit so that we can fly lower.
Cessna 2 Juliet Bravo, you are leaving my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Shh, my finger slipped. Oh crap. I'm sorry.
Leeds Tower Cessna November 82 Juliet Bravo, frequency change.
I'm sorry. Okay, we are going to tune Leeds approach, but we're not going to contact them. Goodbye, ATC. Well, this has been interesting so far. I don't know if this is going on YouTube or not. This has been just a little too interesting so far. I'm sorry. Yeah, my finger slipped onto the right rudder pedal. Or the right rudder key. It's actually a key. I fly using the keyboard. Headed toward the Leeds, what I believe is the Leeds skyline, because my objective was to go to the train station in Leeds. And we fly right over that tall-ish office building, or at least what has been rendered as a tallish office building by Microsoft and Sobo. I was going for the main train station in Leeds, though, so I didn't notice it. But what I'm going for from here on out is the path of the Midland Main Line. And there's something highly, well, I think it's off-putting, I think it's annoying, that you should notice immediately about this. Put it in the comments if you notice it. Again, this is supposed to be the path of Britain's Midland Main Line. Okay. So it looks like we're getting the same excellent performance from the autopilot this go around as we did when I ran this route at night. So that's great news. Yeah, my fat finger slipped onto the right rudder pedal, or the right rudder keyboard key, which is the enter key on the keypad. The keypad on the right side of the keyboard. So I want to put timestamps in this video here, but I'm not as good with English geography as I am with American geography. Obviously Canadian geography I'm pretty good with. I can wing it with Australian geography, especially out in away from cities, because a lot of times in such sparsely populated places, if you're flying by a town and you know roughly where you are, you can make a pretty good guess of which town that is in a place like Australia. But if anyone would like to help me out with timestamps for this video, I would be very thankful to you. Label the timestamps with the name of the town that we're passing over at the time. So broken clouds over Yorkshire. I am not listening to that warning. I don't. I'm perfectly capable of flying this low. It's something I'm quite experienced at doing in even bigger planes than this. There's a windmill there at 12 o'clock. I discovered as I was inputting waypoints for this route, and again, there were about 35 or 40 of them that I typed in. Each either a train station that is active or a train station that has been abandoned over the years. And as I was doing that, what I found is that, yeah, about half of the stations on what they call the Midland Main Line actually either don't exist at all anymore or are there and don't take passengers. You can't board the train there anymore. There are a lot of stations that are simply not used anymore, or in a couple of cases, in a few cases, are gone without a trace. So I found that to be interesting. So here the airplane is steering itself. I've been flying simulated aircraft since I was 12, and it still seems like magic to me that you can program an airplane to do this. I'm not climbing. I'm going to grow tired of that notification. I'm already tired of it. This is a very particular kind of flight here, Microsoft. Don't worry about me. So for example, we're about to cross a river here. I might want to add a timestamp to the description box of this video with the name of this river. I could try to look it up myself, but even if I were to do that, there's a chance that I could be wrong. There are a lot of little streams and rivers that we pass along this route. So if anyone knows with certainty what that is called, just put it in the comments and say, timestamp right here with the name of this river, and it's the Severn or the Orwell or whatever, bigger turns that we make. And that was negotiated well. Found a glitch, or what I believe to be a glitch, with the autopilot, related to the autopilot, which is that when I open, say, the air traffic control panel or the VFR map, and then close it again. Sometimes when you go over here and try to mess with the autopilot master switch or the heading hold or the altitude hold or any of these switches over here in this on the right hand Garmin screen, the system won't let you do it. You'll hover over top of these buttons here and the system will just it won't respond at all. It won't let you disengage the autopilot. It won't let you disengage the navigation hold. That's if you've opened up, say, the ATC panel and then closed it, or the fuel panel and then closed it, or the VFR map and then closed it. So I'm having trouble with that. So when it is time to put this thing down at Cranfield Airport in Bedfordshire, I don't want to have that problem. So I'm not going to be opening the VFR map. I'm not going to be opening ATC. I'm just going to do this myself. Because in my test run that I did overnight last night, that nearly caused me not to be able to land at Cranfield. I figured it out and was able to land, but I don't want that to happen this time. I love how English cities are so much closer together than what I'm used to. Even in the relatively densely populated part of the states, towns are not. You won't typically find towns this close together. So the clouds are clearing off. I'll do a drone tour of Leeds-Bradford Airport now that I have the new scenery. They've downloaded the add-on from Orbix. I'll do a drone tour of that airport as soon as I can figure out how to use the drone. Sadly, we didn't get to see much of it just now. But I will be back there with a drone tour. It's telling me my RPM is a little high. Okay. Alright, so here's another big left, and we swing around this hill. That's right, I remember this. I remember this from my trial run. We swing around this hill, and if you're not careful, smash right into it. You gotta give yourself some altitude to get around this hill. I remember this. So this flight plan took about 2 hours to put together, like I said. Maybe even somewhere between 2 and 3 hours to put together. And if anybody wants the flight plan, it's 2 files. It's a PLN file and an FLT file. Send me your email address, and I will send you the files. Now, as far as where they go in Microsoft Flight Simulator folder, I don't know exactly where they go. But if anyone isn't too keen on spending 2 or 3 hours putting in these waypoints, I can just send them to you. Give me your email address. Yeah, I'd like to think that this adheres pretty closely to the main line of the Midland Main Line, because it is, like I said, it is at least 3 dozen waypoints. That I typed in. Copied in from Wikipedia, I should say. Like to think that this gets it pretty close. I'll go ahead and mention the elephant in the room here. There's no railroad track. The railroad itself is entirely missing. But unless I've put in those waypoints wrong, this is where it goes. I mean, there's a chance that some of the waypoints on Wikipedia are listed inaccurately, but that's the only explanation for this being off. Sometimes the waypoints are so close together that the autopilot will simply say, I can't fly that exact thing. I can't do that. So I'm going to do my best at something that approximates that and re-intercept the route on further down. And I like that the autopilot has the ability to do that. I like that the autopilot sort of improvises in that way. So the maximum speed of the trains that run along this line, according to what I was able to find, is about 107, 108 knots. If you were to express it in knots, nautical miles per hour, it's about 107, 108. So we are, we would be beating a train if a train were to leave from Leeds non-stop and go straight south, we would be further along than it right now, because we're humming along at about 127, 126 knots. Of course, I know the train stops at about 40 different places along the way, of course. But it's nice countryside. It's pretty countryside. I like it. And I like how close English towns are together. I got this, woman. Technical term there. From the States that we use.
500.
Alright. Put a sock in it. Another technical term. Ground rose with me there. Alright, alright, alright. When I have the autopilot or any part of the autopilot activated, I'm uncomfortable going outside the plane with the various camera angles, the showcase, the spot plane, what we used to call the spot plane, the drone, anything like that. For that matter, in my experience, that triggers a glitch. That triggers my inability to interact with any of these autopilot functions over here on the right-hand Garmin screen. So, sad as it is, I will not be experimenting with alternate camera angles in this video, because I want to be able to land the plane. We will get there. We will get there eventually, and when we do, Cranfield Airport in Bedfordshire, we will get there, and when we do, I want to be able to land this thing. And if I can't disengage the autopilot, I'm not landing. Or I'm landing against my will in between Jersey and Guernsey somewhere. You know. Being plucked out of the ocean. So that looks like, well, I don't know. It looks like an arena textured like an office building. Well, let's see if we can get a better look at this. Oh, we're turning right towards it. Now we're flying right over top of it. Okay, if anyone knows what that was a sports venue. So if anyone knows what that was, I can use that as a timestamp if anyone can identify what goes on there, or what the name of that venue is that we just passed over top of. I'd like to fly a bit lower than this, to be honest. What I have noticed is that this train line appears to adhere to rivers and streams, and also seems to dodge airports. Seems to be seems to travel away from airports and along rivers and streams, which I suppose makes sense. Oh yes, this inexplicably tall structure up here. I remember passing this at night on my dry run of this route. Right-hand turn coming up here. I trust that we are going to circle to the far side of the thing, that we are not flying higher than. Looks like we are. No. We're circling to the near side of it, and I don't remember doing that particularly. I just remember passing it. Yes, I know. Siri. I've got this. Good looking out, though. jostling us around a little bit, pushing us around. So the clouds have cleared off considerably since Leeds. Maybe what you'd expect. Although I have to say that when I think of England, I think of the entire country blanketed in overcast clouds. Not just the north. So we're roughly adhering to this river here. Actually, if you look down onto the ground, out the left side, that may be a train track there. A little ways off to the left. I had not noticed that before. Let's see. Yeah, that certainly looks like... See if we continue to trace it as we make this turn. Yeah, we are. Okay, so the train track is present, or what seems to be. The train track of the Midland Main Line is present for part of the route and then not other parts of it. Of course, I'm aware that in some places along the line the tracks have been pulled up. But back towards the beginning of this flight in Leeds, I didn't see any train tracks going south from Leeds at all. And that just seems unusual to me, or odd to me for a city of that size. Wouldn't have a single train track going south out of it in the simulator, so if that just seems odd, because you know that there's a train station there and that there are train tracks which emanate from it. running this daytime flight a little bit faster than I ran the night flight that I ran as practice a few hours back, just because I can see better. During daylight hours, obviously you can see better. Also, I'm more comfortable with how the autopilot operates. I'm just, in general, more comfortable with what I'm doing. I was very pleased with how well the trial run went. And with the exception of that, with the exception of the fact that my finger slipped onto the right rudder at the beginning of this, nearly causing disaster. Aside from that, this has been fine. The new Microsoft Flight Simulator is such an accomplishment that I feel like, I mean, I've been kind of quiet, I think, during this run, but it's not because I am in awe. I'm still in awe of this thing, and I'm looking out the window just like everybody else is here. I mean, I am not a tour guide by nature. I'm not a talkative person by nature. And even when I'm flying over terrain that I know very well, I'm not a tour guide by nature. And my relative silence here should not be interpreted as anything other than just the fact that my jaw is on the floor at how amazing this looks. And I would say that about any place I was flying over. Not just England, not just the US, not just Australia, which are 3 places that I've flown over a fair bit since the 18th of last month. I'm just so happy with this. I mean, I'm sitting here getting 24 frames per second and my jaw is on the floor. I'm perfectly happy with 24 frames per second. And as someone who is not from this place, I'm perfectly happy with what this scenery looks like. I want Britons to sound off in the comments, though. I want people from England to sound off in the comments about what they like about the scenery, what they don't like. So go ahead and do that if you're so inclined, because I want to know what local people think about how their town is rendered, about how their region is rendered. I'm always interested in those types of comments. This reminds me a bit of the Great Plains. in the United States. The only reason I don't say Midwest is that this is a little bit hillier than a lot of the Midwest is. Just a little, though. It's noticeably hillier than the Midwest is. The Midwest is very flat. This is pretty flat, but it's got a little bit of undulations to it. A little bit of there are a few hills around here that you only see on rare occasions in the Midwest. The Midwest is noticeably flatter even than this. Obviously, this is a bit more crowded as well in terms of the human population. Of course, I love cities and towns. I'm being redundant at this point, but I really enjoy flying over this countryside because. This area, this part of the world, because of how much closer together the towns are. I mean, I think of a place like the northeastern seaboard back in the States, where you might see towns this close together. You know, sizable, significant towns of several thousand people, tens of thousands of people per town, this close together. Another place in the States where you see that is Southern California. But obviously, Southern California and Southern England obviously have their differences. Turn to the right here, and if I am not too much mistaken, we should be well on our way at this point. We should be getting close, or at least close to close. it might seem, I can't imagine how this must seem watching this as an English person or as someone from the UK, but I am incredibly interested in this a thing of just decent sized town after decent sized town after decent sized town, one right after the other after the other after the other. It's different, and I like flying over it. I really enjoy flying over it. I mean, rural areas have their merits, but so does flying over this type of area here too. And on top of that, the topography has a little bit of excitement to it as well. I love flying in the American Midwest. I live in Ohio, and I love flying there. It brings me to tears how well the rural scenery is rendered in my part of the United States. But I will admit that it's flat. It's I love it because it's what I see every day, and it's what's to see it replicated this faithfully is, like I said, it brings me to tears. Tears of joy. I love flying over my home state in the United States, but this is similar in some ways and is different in some ways. But I really, really enjoy this kind of flying right here, where you have a decent sized town every once in a while, or every so often, but also a lot of farmland. I was flying over Germany not long ago, and one of the things I remarked on was what strikes you about flying around Europe, and I suppose I would include the UK in this. Europe, the continent of Europe, is, for as crowded as it is, for the amount of people who live there, it is still astonishingly empty. I mean, the UK is probably a little bit more crowded than Germany, or at least it appears that way to me flying over it. I haven't done the math. England, in particular, if you were to just take England, is a more crowded place than Germany is. But I feel the same about both. For as many people as live over here, you fly over it and you just marvel at how empty it is. Even with all of these towns. Now, we're flying directly into a windmill here. You just marvel at everything. When you see it from the air, it's an entirely different experience than seeing it on the ground, or at least flying over the States. It's a very different thing seeing it from the air. I would imagine that's universal. flying directly over this windmill. It is taking us right over this thing. I don't think it did that. When I made my night flight, my trial run of this route, it did not do that. It did not take us directly over this windmill. We flew to the side of it. Alright, I think we're clear. I may keep this, I'm not going to bleed off this altitude just yet. I think I may keep this altitude. Because we're going to be entering a pattern here shortly. What we call a pattern in the States. I think everyone else might call it a circuit. See, we're passing by the Bedford, there's a ground-based navigation aid associated with Bedford, named after Bedford, and we are crossing it right. We're passing to its east as we speak, as I speak. So we're nearly home. We're nearly there. Yeah. Now, as soon as I get a 20 on Cranfield, I am going to take control of the plane. Because I want to sneak in a right-hand turn. I want to sneak in one right-hand turn before officially entering the pattern. Because the pattern that I ran into Cranfield last night was a 6 or 7 point pattern, because I did nothing but left-hand turns. I didn't even make a right to enter the pattern. It was all a bunch of lefts, and it took quite a while. So I'm going to see if I can sneak in a right-hand turn here before officially entering the pattern. But in order to do that, I need to have some sense of where Cranfield is. I'm also counting on being able to disengage the autopilot. Okay, I can still do that. If anyone else has experienced this glitch that I'm referring to, and if you have, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, if you're confused at all about what I'm talking about, then you haven't experienced this. You know it. If it's happened to you, you know it. And Microsoft really and Asobo really need to get rid of this in the next update, because it's quite annoying. You're just randomly unable to interact with any of these things here on any of these autopilot related things that I'm hovering the mouse over right now. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to disengage the autopilot now. So we're going to go off, off. And we're going to go to 210. So here we're sneaking in a right-hand turn prior to officially entering the pattern. Okay, not quite yet. Let's not do it yet. We need to be a fair bit of distance off of that magenta line on the right hand Garmin screen before doing this. Yeah, no. I'm not being patient. I'm not being patient. Get off of that line. Get off of that line. Okay. Alright. Alright. Okay. That should be sufficient. Okay, now we will turn to 210. Now 300. And you don't see us, Cranfield. You don't see us. You do not see us. We're not doing this. We're just okay. Okay, there. Now you see us. I'm just some guy. I'm nobody. I'm nobody. You don't see me. All right. I'm shortening the process. The process yesterday was, like I said, a 7-point circuit or a 7-point pattern, and I don't want to put you all through that. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Wind has calmed down. One, 2, 3, 4. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I didn't select runway 3. When I selected runway 3, that wasn't. I didn't put very much thought into that. I should have probably just stuck with the default runway that it gave me, which was 21. Well, I did actually put some thought into it, but it was the wrong kind of thought. It was thought with a focus on touring the area, Bedfordshire. I wanted to be able to see as much of the countryside out here as I could, returning to 210 now. But instead of trying to do that here, I think I'm going to make an entirely separate video on that. So now we are downwind of 3, runway 3. And we are entirely too low. We're below the pattern altitude by quite a bit. I'm aware of that. But yeah, I think I'm going to do an entirely separate video on these on the region here. I almost called it a northern suburb of London, but it's not really that. It's we're quite a ways out. Not sure how far it still is to London, but we're still quite a ways away from London. As far as I know, anyway. All right, so now we will turn to 120, and we're on final here. 120 is final. But we're not going to tell air traffic control that because, well, I've already disengaged the autopilot, so it doesn't really matter. And actually, this is going to be more of a hairpin. Yeah, this is going to be a hairpin back to 030. Yeah. was a little bit impatient there. I think I was so put off by what happened last night with my 7-point pattern that I did, my 7-point circuit that I did, that I just wanted to. I mean, this felt rushed a little bit, honestly. But I didn't want to. I don't want to put you all through what I went through last night. 7 points just to avoid making, 7 lefts just to avoid making one right. The up elevator on this thing, or the elevator on this thing, is extremely responsive. It's too responsive. We're still moving too fast. Okay, this is good. This is good.
Stall.
Nope. We're good. We're good. And that's exactly what happened to me last night as well. Whoa. I don't know if that's quite what's supposed to happen. But if you stall 1 second before you put it down, then you're certainly not moving too fast. And you're probably not going to bounce it. The alternative to that is to bounce the landing. And I almost feel like I'd rather stall for half a second than bounce the landing. Fight about that in the comments. I don't know. I'm not a pilot. There we go. Oh, shoot. That's all right. There we go. Here, stay over here. Stay over here. I don't know where general aviation parking is. Like I said, I shut off air traffic control for reasons related to immersion. And I just feel like you sacrifice the immersion when the accents are wrong. But that was the Midland Main Line, or most of it, I should say, from Leeds to Bedford. Actually, I'm getting differing reports on exactly where the Midland Main Line begins in the north. The map that I found took it all the way to the main train station in Leeds. So that's where we started. I also wanted to show off, to the extent I could, the Leeds-Bradford add-on scenery. Didn't get a great look at that. Like I said, when I figure out how to use the drone, I'll go back to Leeds-Bradford and have a look around using the drone. And I also intend to just have a fly around here from this airport, here in Bedfordshire, and I'm just going to see if I can find the town of Bedford, fly around a little bit here north of London. So if you enjoyed this video, thanks a lot for watching it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy my channel. Leave a comment. Let me know of the names of some of the landmarks that I passed, some of the rivers that I passed, some of the towns that I passed, and timestamp them, and I will use them as timestamps in the description box. Organize all of your contributions into one place and put them in the description box. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you again when I make another video. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.